Oh my God, you guys, is it working? Is it working? Did we fix it? Is it working? Woohoo! Party in chat. Fucking throw up your best dance or whatever emotes. Something to celebrate. We got this working. Oh my God. I was going to be very, very despondent if we couldn't get it working today. It would have been...
I would have been so sad, chat. It would have made me cry.
Okay, so let's do this shit, alright? Let's do what y'all came here to do and see and have fun with. Why am I getting double audio? Okay, that should fix it. And I love you, girl, but I mean, unless you want to stay on and chit chat while I do this, I should probably hang up on you on Discord. Although I'm still not getting any audio on Discord, but... Well, the weird thing is I can't hear her. At least not right now. Fem, do you want me to hang up on you on Discord? Or would you like to hang out and chit-chat with me while I'm doing all this and give a giggly, sexy European opinion on the bullshit that's going on in America today? I mean, I know you said you have to clean, so...
If you want me to join, I'll join you.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can only hear you through the stream, so there's kind of a delay.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, if you're okay with that, it's cool with me. But if you're not, or if you have anything more important to do than this, don't hesitate to be like, thanks, but no thanks. I'm a big girl. I can take rejection. But yeah. So.
Now, pull me now. Pull up later.
What? I missed the first part of your sentence.
I'll pop in for now, maybe pop off later.
Okay. Yeah, no. Yeah. Okay, so lecture time. Let's do this. Okay. So here in the United States of fuck stupidia, the Supreme Court recently just overturned a, let's see, 49-year legal precedent called Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade, in a nutshell, guaranteed every woman in this country the right to a safe and legal abortion in all 50 states, in all cities, counties, municipalities, whatever. And it has saved millions of women's lives from botched abortions. It has saved millions, tens, probably hundreds of millions of women from being trapped in the poverty cycle that is so hard to get out of in this country. It has let women go to school and get jobs and better their lives. Actually, you know what? I actually have a whole slide about the benefits of abortion, so I'm going to shut up about that and move on. But yeah, so people are freaking out because now the legality of abortion is up to the states, and I have a whole slide on that too, so I won't go into too much detail on that yet. What I want to start talking about, actually, are the biological myths surrounding abortion, because there are actually people on this planet who believe that human life begins the second that one single sperm cell fertilizes an egg. And believe what you want to believe. I'm not going to tell you that you don't have the right to believe what you want to believe. I'm not going to tell you you don't have the right to practice whatever religion you want to practice. In fact, that's one of the things that, allegedly during its inception made America great, was because we let people of all religions come here and practice the fuck out of their chosen religion. Not a lot of countries do that. In fact, there are a lot of countries in the world where there is one official religion, and if you don't believe in their God, there are laws on the books which could put you in danger or kill you. But anyway, there are people who believe that life begins at fertilization. They call it conception. But it's fertilization. It's when, the sperm, the egg, fuse together, and once that happens, there are enough chromosomes in that cell to start dividing and multiplying and growing into a bigger clump of cells and an even bigger clump of cells, and eventually, maybe, potentially, a human being. But not always. That is not always the case. For example, if a zygote or a fetus is expelled from the womb before it weighs at least 500 grams or before it makes it to at least 22 weeks of gestation, it cannot survive outside the mother's womb. So how can you call something a life when it's not alive on its own? In a way, it's basically a parasite. But the difference between, a baby and an abortion has a lot to do with consent. Does the mother consent to that parasite eventually growing into a human child that she is then responsible for the rest of her life? Legally she's only responsible for it until it turns 18. Then she can tell it to go fuck itself and die in the gutter, which sadly a lot of parents do in this country. It's kind of sick how many people are like, you're 18 years old, you're not my fucking problem anymore, get a job. And it's America in general has an empathy problem, which actually we'll get to in a later slide. But yeah, another thing, and this was a big issue with a propaganda film called The Silent Scream that came out in the 70s or 80s, maybe 90s, I can't remember. It was footage of an abortion that they would show. I think they would actually show people in schools during abstinence-only sex ed. Got a slide about that too. The first embryonic cell that can turn into any other cell is called a totipotent stem cell. Sounds about right. In The Silent Scream, they actually showed footage of a doctor performing an abortion, like inside where the uterus, like an ultrasound video. It was a video of an ultrasound of an abortion being performed, and they actually doctored and sped up and slowed down the footage in certain ways to make it look like the fetus was struggling and screaming in pain. And that's part of the propaganda that has brainwashed a lot of people into thinking that terminating a pregnancy before 12 weeks is the same thing as killing a real human. And it's not. And then there's the detectable heartbeat myth. That's why we have so many of these 6-week abortion bans on the laws right now, or on the books right now in this country, because somebody in the scientific community you didn't know about the silent scream propaganda, Sitley? Yeah, it's pretty fucking horrifying. The lengths some people will go to convince others to believe their agenda. It's sick the way. I'm not even going to sarcastically call them pro-lifers. They're forced birthers. They want to force women to give birth, and then they don't want to take any responsibility for their action in forcing a life to be alive that wasn't supposed to be here. Or forcing a life to exist, basically. No, but so the detectable heartbeat thing, in recent years, they have developed sophisticated enough equipment that they can detect the vibration of cardiac cells as early as 6 weeks. But it's not a fully formed heart, and those cells aren't pumping blood in a circulatory system. They're just kind of vibrating, They're I don't know, exercising, they're practicing, they're getting ready to be a heart, but they're not a heart yet. Okay. Also, anybody who's familiar with the George Carlin routine, we may watch his video for fun in a little bit, Although it could get me DMCA'd and part of my VOD muted, so I'm iffy about it. But the Fox GOP modified karate chop footage in the Senate, I don't remember that, but I'm sure it probably did happen. Anybody who's familiar with George Carlin, in sexually active women, up to half of all fertilized eggs will fail to implant in the uterus and get washed away with her monthly menses. So, and we never know. There is no way to know when our eggs get fertilized. There's no test. There's no nothing, because the way pregnancy tests work, once the embryo implants into the uterus, that's when your body starts changing and starts releasing the unique pregnancy hormones that it otherwise does not release into your bloodstream. And there is a complete and total 100% physiological change inside a woman's body. It's everywhere. It's in the brain, it's in the skin, it's in the uterus, it's in the internal organs. All of these hormones being released at the same time prepare the entire body to dedicate all of its resources and energy to making that little clump of cells into a human eventually. That, and according to the Mayo Clinic, as many as 20% of all pregnancies will end in miscarriage, whether that pregnancy is wanted or not. So 1 in 5 women in their lifetime will have to deal with miscarriage. For some women, it's a blessing. It's like, hey, I don't have to go to all the trouble of getting an abortion, which I have a whole ass slide on that. Because especially here in the United States, even while Roe was still legal, it was still nearly impossible to get abortion in certain states, but more on that in a minute. And then let's touch on the hypocrisy of bodily autonomy and forced birth. Because legally, if a person gets into an accident and goes brain dead, but all of their other major internal organs are still totally fine and viable, if you were to harvest those organs, you could save at least half a dozen lives. 2 lung lobes could be transplanted into people with lung disease. The heart, for somebody who needs a heart transplant, liver, 2 kidneys, and then there are other forms of tissue donation that it won't necessarily save lives, but they'll definitely increase someone's quality of life. Like your eyeballs, tissue from your eyeballs can be harvested and donated to somebody who, it helped them see again. I don't know if it's useful to harvest a pancreas or a gallbladder and transplant it to anybody for any reason, but I'm not a doctor, so, but we're not allowed to do that. So every time somebody who goes brain dead with viable organs completely dies after they pull the plug, that's like 7 lives who could potentially be lost, who are already here and exist right now on this earth, who could be contributing to society as a whole. They're gone. Because we have this idea that, fucking with a body once it's dead is somehow violate a violation in some way, shape, or form. But apparently there are laws on the books.
Interruption.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you, if someone is pregnant, can you take out the baby even though the mother is actually dead?
It gets complicated, but it depends basically on how far along the mother is, because there's, they've actually tackled that subject on some medical dramas on TV, and of course not all medical dramas on TV are scientifically or medically accurate. Like if the fetus is far enough along that it's viable outside the womb, usually that has to be at least 24 weeks. and something happens to the mother, say her abusive husband shot her in the head, but they get her to the ER in time to where they stabilize her. She's brain dead. She ain't waking up, but the baby is still in her belly and it's still technically alive. They could do an emergency C-section or something. And, if the baby starts breathing and its heart's beating and it's alive on its own outside the mother's womb, then, well, if it's specifically that situation, the dad's going to jail. So, it's either going to end up in the foster system or maybe with next of kin. So, but if it's like, if she's in her first or early second trimester and something happens and her body like physically dies, but that fetus is still in the womb, like I think I did see an episode once of some dumb medical drama where it was early in the pregnancy, the woman suffered an accident, she was brain dead and in a coma, and she was not waking up, but her family wanted the doctors to keep her body alive long enough for the pregnancy to develop to term. And they were trying to explain to them how even if they were the smartest, most advanced OBGYN doctors in the whole entire world, that it's so complicated, like in the body with the brain managing everything to bring a baby to term, that it's just impossible in the, like, basically the cutoff is if a woman gets into an accident and goes brain dead, but the baby is still alive in her womb, it has to be far enough along that you could take it out right now and it would breathe and its heart would beat on its own. But if it's before that, then no, there's no shot. Once the mom dies, the baby will die too. So, but yeah, we're passing laws right now that make it so that living...
Already there, like, womb is the difference.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because, once the brain is that damaged to where she's not even going to be alive anymore, then the brain doesn't have the capacity to regulate all the hormones and the endocrine system and the lungs and the heart of the mother enough to, manage the baby's development. Sorry, I got wrapped up in the sound of my own voice. I almost forgot you were on the call, fam. It kind of surprised me earlier when I heard you, pop up and contribute your voice.
I've been trying to not to interrupt because the delay.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, but no, instead, right now in America, we have a situation going on where a dead corpse has more bodily autonomy than a living, breathing woman. Let that sink the fuck in. We hate women in this country so much that we're giving more human rights to corpses than our own people. Welcome to America. Not only that, but we're forcing women to give birth in a country where our healthcare is so bad that out of all the other OECD countries, we are 33 out of 36 for infant mortality, and that's at the point of birth. And we're also dead last for female mortality when women give birth. And guess what? The numbers are even worse for BIPOCs, for women of color, for anyone who isn't white. So, and I got a whole slide on that too in a minute. It gets crazy. Why rich white women are more likely to survive their pregnancies than anybody else. I'll give you a hint. It's called racism. Oh, and also, yeah, there's this fun little thing called an ectopic pregnancy, which funnily enough, I didn't even know existed until that episode of Grey's Anatomy in the first season, I think it was, when Christina got pregnant and the ectopic pregnancy exploded in her abdomen and she started bleeding out internally, and they just barely saved her life. Because an ectopic pregnancy, for anybody who doesn't know, is when the fertilized egg implants somewhere outside of the uterus. Usually it's in the fallopian tube. Sometimes it's on the outside of the fallopian tube. How it gets out there? I'm not a doctor. Sometimes it'll plant on the outside of the uterus and just start growing in your abdominal cavity. Spoilers. No matter what happens with an ectopic pregnancy, that pregnancy is not viable. That zygote will die before it has a chance to develop into a living, breathing human. And also, it will cause traumatic injury inside the abdominal cavity that will cause the woman to bleed out and die. But in spite of all of these medical facts, for whatever reason, there are people in this world who think that an ectopic pregnancy is worth saving even though it's going to kill the mother. Long before that little fertilized egg ever has a chance at being a real boy or girl or non-binary. Like, I think I heard about some crazy case in, I think it was a South American country where abortion was illegal and a woman had an ectopic pregnancy. And the legal loophole around performing medical procedure to save her life was, oh, well, if we take out your whole fallopian tube, then, you know, maybe it could be like an artificial womb or something. I don't know what their fucking reasoning was. But that in and of itself was a more invasive, more dangerous medical procedure, and it affected her fertility for the rest of her life. When, you know, just performing a good old standard abortion could have prevented all that. But no, we need to pretend like it's all about human life and the sanctity of life and that abortion is murder because, actually, I have a slide on that. We'll get to it in a minute. Okay. Let's talk about another pet peeve of mine, especially in the abortion is murder debate. Let's talk about late-term abortions. You know, because there's all these psycho-conservatives running around talking about there are women in the 9th month of pregnancy having live babies ripped out of the womb and murdered right there. This is a completely false, imaginary fabrication. It's a boogeyman. It's a straw argument. It has never happened. It will never happen because that's sick. And like I said, I have a slide about that. Hold on. So there's a very distinct split when it comes to abortion. 91% of abortions happen in the first 12 weeks in the first trimester, when the embryo, zygote, fetus, whatever you want to call it, is not mature enough to live outside the womb and therefore is not the same thing as a living, breathing person. 91% of abortions, and I'm getting this data from Planned Parenthood, who perform the vast majority of abortions in this country, so I'm pretty sure their data is accurate. Pretty sure they have access to a very large sample size. 8% happen after 12 weeks in the second trimester, when, depending how far along it is, it's iffy if it could survive outside the womb, but even if it could, it would be so premature that it would have, more often than not, it would have lifelong health complications and probably suffer a poor quality of life and die early because some selfish fucktwat insisted that the sanctity of life was more important than mercy and compassion. So, and second trimesters happen for one of two reasons. Either a woman lives in a state that is so anti-abortion that they put up all these legal roadblocks that make it harder for her to get her abortion, and there's only one clinic in the entire fucking state. I have a slide on that. I should wait to talk about that until we get there. Or say it's a wanted pregnancy, but at some point, usually around 20 weeks, they go in for an ultrasound, the doctor does some tests, and they find out, oh, hey, all of your baby's organs are growing in a sac outside of its body. It's gonna die. I mean, the best thing to do is to just clear it out so the woman's body can recover, and maybe one day, if losing that baby isn't too traumatic, she and her partner can try again. But instead, most people think that that's murder, so they pass laws to try and keep that fetus inside that woman's body for as long as possible, thinking that there's some miraculous medical procedure that can keep a fetus with cerebral palsy, when a baby's developing and either only a small chunk or no part of their brain starts developing, and it's just like a human shell with no brain. I forget what that medical thing is called. Like I said, not a doctor. But yeah, there's all sorts of birth defects that will kill a fetus that are non-detectable until at least 20 weeks of gestation. But crazy-ass conservatives thinks that aborting those babies is murder, when it's really healthier for the mother. You know, the earlier you catch it and terminate the pregnancy, the more easy and quickly you can recover. And the more likely you can, try again at some point in the future if you really want a baby. So, yeah, it's not like... I'm sure there's probably some crazy conservative out there who has this fantasy in his head that, what if I'm dating someone and I get her pregnant and then we get into a fight and then she goes and gets an abortion just to spite me? Like, I guarantee you that's part of the reasoning behind trying to legally limit abortions to before 12 weeks and none after. And then there's so technically it's 1.4%. 1.4% of viable pregnancies are aborted in the third trimester. But let me emphasize again that when an abortion, an evacuation of a fetus from the womb happens this late in a pregnancy, that baby is already dead. A lot of times women will suffer a blunt force trauma to the abdomen and it will kill the baby. And that woman will be walking around with a dead baby in her belly, and it's usually a baby she wanted. But because conservatives are so feral when it comes to this subject, they think that showing mercy and compassion to that woman and performing a medical procedure called a D&E, it's called a dilation and extraction. It's where they dilate the cervix just enough to shove some tools in there, which chop up the baby into little pieces, so that it's easier to evacuate the fetus without doing too much physical trauma to the woman's uterus and cervix and vagina and all those other fun parts. And D&Es are, like I said, it's the safest way to get that dead baby out of the mom. But, the idea of chopping up a dead fetus into bits is, makes some conservatives out there clutch their pearls and wet the bed at night, I guess. So, mother's health be damned, And also there's situations where in the third trimester, even when it's a wanted pregnancy, the baby will seem like it's developing fine, but they won't catch anything until weeks before delivery. They'll find out, oh, there's a giant tumor where your baby's heart should be. And once you give birth, they're only going to live for 30 seconds, no matter what we do. Some people make the choice to continue those pregnancies to term. And then when the body is ready to give birth to it, there's they'll even hold a little ceremony. I forget what it's called. Like they even, there's an association that donates clothing and like sewing materials and stuff to make like little white gowns for these babies that are unfortunately destined to die. There's nothing that can be done about it. And then they'll give birth to the baby, they'll dress it up in a little gown, and then the mother will hold it for however many minutes it remains alive outside of her body. And, you know, for some people, that's how they mourn, that's how they get closure. And if that's how they want to do it, that's okay. But I'm pretty sure that's where the myth about ripping babies out of the womb, live babies, and murdering them at 9 months, I'm pretty sure that's where that little straw argument came from. So I just wanted to put some information out there and let people know what's up with late-term abortions. Because in so many cases, if you're getting an abortion after 12 weeks, it's because something went horribly, horribly wrong that was out of your control, and it's traumatic. And there's just such a lack of empathy towards women who have to suffer those realities, and it makes me sick. Ferret dance? Okay, yeah. If she's free. Actually, you know what, Lee? If you want to like message her for me and ask her if she wants to jump on in. Like, I don't know if she's busy or what. Like, I don't want to bother her if she has to work or something. Okay, so moving on, because I've covered everything there is to do in this slide. The pro-life hypocrisy. So I shared those first couple of slides with you to share this. There's so much hypocrisy in this alleged pro-life, aka forced birth movement, that George Carlin made it funny, but I'm just fucking mad. So people who call themselves pro-life, they support capital punishment. They support the death penalty. If you do something they don't like, they want to kill you. They want you dead. They believe in the sanctity of life so much that, you know, they're totally okay with killing you. There's the issue of abstinence-only sex education. Okay, yeah, that's fine, fam. That's cool. I'll hang up on you then. Oh, well, I'll just hang up. You're not there anymore. Okay. So yeah, for all you Euros who don't know about this psychosis that is abstinence-only sex education, it's pretty much what it says on the tin. It tries to brainwash people into thinking abstinence only is the only option to protect yourself from unwanted pregnancies and STDs. You're supposed to abstain from sex until, you know, you find your forever partner and get married, and then and only then is it okay. Can't have sex before that. No. Even though your teenage body is surging with hormones and feelings and horniness that you can hardly think straight, you're supposed to abstain. Can't do it. Not even a little bit. Not even the tip. Not even the back door or the attic window. Can't do the sex. Yeah. That's cool. And the irony about that is the fact that comprehensive sex education, the type of education that says, we prefer you to abstain, but we know you're horny fucking teenagers and your prefrontal cortex isn't, completely developed yet. So if you do, here's some condoms, here's some birth control, here's some info about STDs. Try to be as safe as you can. When comprehensive sex ed is taught, it lowers the rate of unplanned pregnancies and STDs. But when you restrict it to abstinence-only sex education, that's when the numbers shoot up. And they know this. And we'll get to more on that in a future slide. These forced birthers also want to defund public schools so that, you know, the babies that are born to these women without their consent grow up uneducated, because uneducated people who aren't taught critical thinking skills. I know, I laughed at that too the first time I heard it. The attic window thing. It's easier to propagandize and get them over to their side of the political spectrum the less education they have, the more obedient they are. You know, the easier it is to control them. They're about defunding food stamps so that these kids grow up hungry and desperate. And when a hungry, desperate kid grows up to be a hungry, desperate adolescent, you know, they're more likely to turn to crime, to feed themselves, to keep a roof over their heads and pay rent. Or if they're emotionally traumatized, to get drugs that make the pain go away of growing up poor and uneducated and hungry. Forced birthers want to keep healthcare privatized and therefore prohibitively expensive, because the only women who deserve to survive birth are rich white women. And they're trying to defund healthcare programs for kids, and they're trying to eliminate our child tax credits, which is basically you get money back from the government when you file your taxes every year, which makes it a lot easier to raise your kids. They refuse to mandate paid family leave. And family leave is a voluntary option for corporations and small businesses in this country. Nobody has to give that to you legally. I know across the Atlantic, you guys have, most of your countries have some sort of codified, mandatory paid family leave, which corporations have to follow. And I'm envious. Kudos to you guys. Keep up the good work. Keep setting the good example. Oh, yeah, and they've also bombed abortion clinics and assassinated abortion providers in cold blood. I think, irony of ironies, it was his name George. There was one of the few doctors in this country who was still performing late-term abortions at the time. What was his name? George Tiller, yeah. He was hunted down and shot to death in his own church by one of these alleged pro-life people. And you know what? I respect the beliefs of anybody who doesn't like abortion, doesn't agree with abortion, and would never get an abortion for themselves. As long as they're compassionate enough to not lash out into the world and force women who do need abortions to not get them. Like, there's a difference. Okay, so. Are forced birthers suffering from a mental health epidemic? This is probably one of the more controversial slides in this little presentation. Because if you're looking at a living, breathing human woman and listening to her tell you about her plight and why she needs an abortion, and you still think she should be forced into bringing that pregnancy to term and having a baby she doesn't want, there's a couple things going on here. Number one, you're anthropomorphizing. I probably mispronounced that just a bit, but I think I got close enough, so it's okay. You're projecting human-like qualities onto a fetus, onto a fertilized egg, onto a zygote, onto something that is not even a human yet. And you're having more empathy for that than you are a living, breathing woman. So you got something screwy going on in your brain, literally in the junction of the frontal, parietal, and temporal lobes where empathy is processed. And, you know, it for some people who are just like rabid about it, who are like protesting in the streets with their pro-life signs and t-shirts and whatever, and like spraying champagne and crowds of pro-life people, you know, at a protest outside the courthouse when Roe was overturned. Like, I honestly think, just my opinion, I'm not a doctor, but it's like borderline schizophrenic delusion to look at a fetus and see more of a person than the person who actually exists and is living and breathing and voting and paying taxes. You know, if you see more of a human in a picture of an ultrasound than you do in looking at an actual pregnant human being, there is something broken in your brain and you need help. And I'm not even saying that to be a dick. I'm saying that because if you don't get help, the cruelty you could inflict on this world is unimaginable. And it would be great if anybody who feels that way would talk to a mental health professional and get their shit sorted out and fix the broken part of themselves that wants to lash out and force cruelty into the world. And also, yes, my PS here. If you think life begins at fertilization, but you have a healthy enough cognitive and executive function to realize that all uterus humans deserve anatomy over their own, or autonomy over their own bodies, and that you have no right whatsoever to violently or legislatively prevent them from exercising their basic human rights, this slide is not about you. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not trying to return the cruelty that the more forceful force birthers are trying to spew out into the world. If anything, if you believe that life begins at fertilization, but you're not out there trying to force women to give birth, I want to thank you for being a compassionate ally. I want to thank you for being respectful of our rights. It's so widespread, but it's utterly offensive to me. Maybe it's something genetic, like anthropomorphizing those cell clusters in some evolutionary holdover that was beneficial in the past or something. See, I don't know, because like, I don't know. Human brains, man, some of them are just broken. So yeah, let's talk about the benefits of abortion, like I was mentioning earlier. In case the print is too small, or you can't quite see it clearly, it was very interesting yesterday when I was researching this, because I've been working in SEO adjacent industries, and SEO is short for search engine optimization. It's basically an entire industry based around trying to help businesses get their websites to show up higher on Google when you search for specific keywords and terms. And when I was searching this yesterday, out of the first 10 results that pop up on page 1, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those 10 were links to credible sources of information talking about how overwhelmingly women who get abortions do not regret it. Yeah, it's ridiculous, Sally. There were 2 other sources. No, wait, I think 3. There were at least 2 other sources, possibly 3, that were trying to spread the opposite information. They were trying to insist that more women regret their abortions than most people let on, and it's such a tragedy. We have to do something to help these women realize that they don't actually want to abort their babies. One of those links was to a website for a pregnancy crisis center, funnily enough, in a city where my young nephews live. Also a very racist town. Funny how they love to set up pregnancy crisis centers in towns with lots and lots of white women. We'll get to more on that later. Yeah, but And then the other one was some Catholic publication because, of course, anti-abortion sentiment is basically all the Catholics' fault. Just flat out, 100%, full stop. Long story short. Also, crime has been steadily going down. Hey, Maris, what's up? Ugh, I am beyond fucking pissed. Like, I want to cut a bitch. I've had some time to process, and the anger's gone down, but I still, like, I'm almost afraid to go to any protests, because if I see somebody acting a fool, I may see red and lose my shit and just start, like, slicing people's faces open with my elbows. But no, ever since Roe v. Wade, wait, that's weird. My chat pinged me, but I don't see a new thingy. Okay, anyway. But yeah, crime has steadily gone down ever since Roe v. Wade became legal and women had access to safe and legal abortion. Why is that? Because when you force women to give birth who don't want to give birth and who can't take care of their kids and grow up in poverty, it's like I was talking about earlier with the defunding public schools and ending welfare programs and food stamps so that women can afford to feed their kids. Like, yeah, bound to be escalated violence. Yeah, And, you know, we'll talk about that in a minute, because I have a slide about how women are going to get tracked electronically by companies who harvest our private data to make it easier for, you know, women to be hunted down who are trying to travel to another state to get an abortion. But like I said, that's in another slide. Because when you force a child to grow up hungry and in poverty, they're more likely to grow up to be criminals. Sad, hard fact, truth of life. Actually, Maris Lynn, crime has steadily been going down for many, many years. Like, we are at the least need for hyper-policing and militarizing of our police and giving the police more funds when they aren't even doing anything useful for it. They're just lining their own pockets and incarcerating more black and brown people. And killing them extrajudiciously. Sorry, I'm back on the meds that make me trip on my own tongue, so I promise I'm sober. And I'm not an idiot. Rubber bullets. Yeah, well, see, the term for that is less lethal. It's a less lethal means of crowd control. But yeah, I know during the BLM protests in the summer of 2020, there was a reporter who literally had their eye shot out by a rubber bullet. And I don't think the cop who did it faced any consequences. I think they got off scot-free. But police brutality is a whole other subject for a whole other day, which we may talk about someday. I don't know, because that situation pisses me the fuck off too. But digressing. Crime has gone down. At least 95% of women who get abortions never regret it. They feel relief. And it's a hard decision. It's not an easy decision to make. Like, I remember when I was first becoming a post-pubescent sexual being in my mid-teens, 15, 16, I knew I was going to have premarital sex. I knew I was going to... I mean, back then I didn't know that I would grow up to be a proud, self-identifying slut American, but I am. I knew I was going to have some premarital sex. I knew there was a risk that I could get into a situation where I would accidentally get pregnant. Yes, I'm a proud slut American. That is how I personally identify. Joking aside, though, I remember sitting down and having a good hard think about it and realizing that, yeah, If I ever get pregnant, I am definitely getting an abortion because I should not be a mom. That is the responsible, mature adult thing to do. If you cannot be a mother, don't give birth. Don't force a baby into this world. Because you're only going to do it harm and trauma and pain. A lifetime of trauma and pain. You'll be inflicting that upon a life that never asked to be born. Upon an innocent human being who has never done anything wrong to deserve that. That's what forced birth is. It's cruel, and it's inhumane, and it's disgusting. Okay. So another benefit of abortion is that women who are trapped in unhealthy relationships, and especially those who are faced with intimate partner violence, you know what, guys? Hold on. I'm having a little bit of a low blood sugar thing right now. I'm going to go heat myself up a quick snack. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to leave with a little BRB screen. Okay, we're back. So, opinion. Do you guys want like a little bit of quiet music on or no? Are you okay with just hearing me talk? Actually, you know what? Screw it. No voting. I'm just going to pause the music. Let's let the awkward silence that I draw out intentionally when I'm trying to make an important point make that important point that much more poignant. You would prefer quiet music? Okay. Well, I gotta turn this down in my headphones because it's way too loud. That's about right. For me. Now we gotta adjust it for you guys. Okay, so how's the volume now on the music? Is it too loud? Is my voice too quiet? And Maris, I'm going to apologize in advance, but yes, I am about to chew on phallic-shaped hot dogs while I talk about abortion. Because I need to eat something because my brain feels a little funny. But if the music's too quiet, let me know. I'm gonna keep going. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Okay, well, we can nudge it a smidge. There we go. No, I'm dipping them in mustard, actually. You know, because these hot dogs came from pigs who ate a lot of pineapple. Poverty is the most common reason for seeking an abortion. Yes, mustard and hot dogs is delicious. Therefore, guaranteeing access to safe legal abortion elevates millions of women and mothers and their children out of poverty. Because guess what? Most women who get abortions are already mothers. They already have more on their plate than they can handle, and they know it'd be irresponsible to bring another life into this world that they can't take care of. So they're doing the right and compassionate thing. Not just for themselves, but for their family and for society as a whole. Okay. Abortion results in more and better education for women, because only 27% of women who pursued a college degree but were denied an abortion completed that degree. Meanwhile, 71% of women who got abortions graduated from college. Amen, silly. And children who are forced birthed to mothers who wanted to abort fare worse in every conceivable way. And I mean, as far as like the education level they attain when they grow up, whether or not they're living in abject poverty, health outcomes, mental health outcomes, everything about that life and that existence is worse. For those kids, then, it would be if she was allowed to plan her family. Excuse me. I know, right, Maris? Okay, next slide. But it's not about biology or religion. I mean, the religious argument is the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Like, practice your religion if you want. Don't force your religion on me. Don't rape my life with your religion. Pregnant pause. Pun semi-intended. To let that point sink in.
Eek, a nipple. Not a nipple, not a scary nipple.
I swear, hot dog juice on my microphone. I don't know if the camera picked it up though. But if it did, somebody clip that. Yeah, don't force your religion down my throat. That's what cocks are for. Sexism and the rise of violent intel attacks. Because guess what? When we're talking about all these mass shootings, there's one very important data point that nobody bothers to discuss. And that's the fact that some ridiculously high percentage, like, I want to say like 80 to 90% of people who commit mass shootings have a history of violence against women. At Uvalde in Texas recently, which isn't even the most recent shooting. It's not even the dozenth most recent shooting. I think there's been like 20 mass shootings since Uvalde, which is like a minute ago. The kid who shot up that school, he started by shooting his grandmother in the face at home. And then he drove to the school and murdered all those children and teachers. And yeah, like when you look into the past and the background of every single mass shooter, almost every single one of them has a criminal record of violence against women. Another thing is that when we're allowed to get abortions when we need them, we have greater freedom and economic freedom and economic security. We can get an education that'll get us a good job, that'll let us be financially independent, so that, guess what? Our economic security isn't tied to a man. We don't have to get married in order to be economically secure, like women did at almost every point in time before the 1970s. Yeah, exactly, Silly. And, you know, the real solution to that problem of women being too independent, and I actually saw a YouTube video, there are these bodybuilder dudes on YouTube called the Hodge Twins, and physically, they're gorgeous. Mentally, in the brain space, they are rotten to the core. They have a lot of bad, toxic masculinity ideas that they spread on their little platform, and people eat it up, hook, line, and sinker. And I once saw a video of them answering a question from a viewer asking, can a woman be too independent? Hi, Hodge Twins. I have a friend named Maria who has a bachelor's degree. She has a good job. She's making her own money. She drives a nice car. She wears nice clothes. She gets her hair and her nails did. And Maria's having trouble finding a man because when I try to set her up with dudes, the guys are like, she's too independent. I don't want her. And So one of them almost did the smart thing and said, no, there's not such a thing as women being too independent. But then the other brother eventually convinced him to change his tune. And by the end of the video, they're like, yeah, if a woman's too independent, then I know she's not going to put up with my shit and she's going to leave me. So that's a bad thing. And that's what they convinced their thousands and thousands of viewers to believe. But, yeah. So, I've seen a lot of memes on Twitter lately talking about, it'll have a clip or a link to something about male violence against women or a bad male take about how women should act or be or whatever. And they'll meme it with things men will do to avoid going to therapy. And it's like, just go to therapy, work on yourself, and turn yourself into the type of man that an educated, economically secure, independent woman would want, instead of sitting around like an angry incel, starting red pill forums on the internet and complaining about how bitches won't suck your dick. Like, I don't understand how, in their broken brains, they think bitching about women not fucking them on the internet and then snapping one day and murdering a bunch of people is the solution to their problem. And then there's fucking assholes like Jordan Peterson out there getting paid tens of thousands of dollars at a shot to give lectures about how we need to get away from all this feminism and letting women be independent because it's making our young men sad and turning them into violent people who are just hurting on the inside, and it's all women's rad lib fault. No, it's not women's fault. It's because you immature little bitches don't teach your sons how to be responsible, calm, decent human beings. And then, of course, there's the fun little thing called rape culture. And I'll do everything in my power to be polite and not mention that, Gregarious Pfister is a rape culture enthusiast piece of shit. But, back to the slide. I mean, again, they drag in these arguments from the Bible about Adam and Eve and how, Eve tempted Adam with her feminine wiles into eating the apple that got them kicked out of paradise. Yeah, right, Marison? Get on my level. It's because they don't want to put in the hard work, because we are creatures of comfort. We want to stay right where we are, but we still want to have this entitled attitude of, you should love me for who I am. And in some circumstances, that's a fair thing to say. If someone is trying to project unrealistic expectations on you. But if you're sitting alone in your mother's basement pasting on red pill Reddit forums, and you're not taking care of yourself or your health or your personal hygiene or your appearance, and you still think you deserve a perfect 10 hot model babe for a girlfriend, something a little wrong with that thinking. But, yeah, and so, men have always been threatened by female sexuality since the times of the fucking Bible. That's why they wrote all that shit into the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, about controlling women and shit. I've been actually talking with a friend of mine who's an actual real Christian who believes in Christ and what he taught in the New Testament. And apparently there's all sorts of nice little Bible verses in there about how men and women are equal. And, how, oh, hey, remember all that shit we wrote in the Old Testament about women being beneath her husband and subservient to man? And fuck that. This is New Testament time. We're bringing sexy back to gender equality. Brett Kavanaugh is the type of guy to hurt himself on a first aid kit. Oh, ow. Welcome in, first time chatter, OAS Music. And thank you for saying that. Yeah, so in the late 19th and early 20th century, hello, that was a fantastic intro. Thank you. We're glad you're here. I was kind of, I given my stream title and everything, I was anticipating maybe some trolls to show up, but so far we've been lucky with that today, so that's cool. So, funny story, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, like starting around, 1850s-ish, women started using their power. Oh, go for it. Go for it, OAS. Like basically the anti-slavery movement was orchestrated by women. And after we got the slaves freed, we moved on to getting the right for women to vote passed. And then after that, the suffragette movement. And then after that, we got alcohol abolished, which, if you want to argue that was going too far, fair point. I like a little drinky here and there, just like the next person. But I'm guessing that dude flipped out around that time and was like, wait a second. These women are getting too powerful and making too many changes that my small wee-wee is having hurt feelings about. And so there have been kind of back and forth waves of women gaining empowerment, men lashing back out to suppress us, getting more rights, getting rights taken away. And there's definitely been an uptick in rape culture and shit like that in our society. And a perfect example of this with the anti-abortion laws that are getting passed in this country right now. If a man rapes a woman today and gets her pregnant in South Texas, and she tries to report the rape, there is a 95% chance he will never suffer any legal repercussions, even though the evidence of that rape is in her womb. But she will be forced to give birth to that child and to raise it and to be the sole responsible caretaker for the rest of her life. That's how pervasive and strong and influential rape culture is in this country. And it makes me fucking sick, and I want to punch a bitch in the face in a video game. Just kidding, I'm not actually threatening violence. You hear that, TOS? Clarence Thomas must have taken that to heart with his marriages. Oh, the third time's a charm. Okay, yeah. You know the expression third time's a charm. Clarence Thomas must have taken that to heart with his marriages.
You're cuter than a fox.
Oh, what was that? I don't have my alerts displaying properly. Where's the thing? Come on. Okay, thank you for the follow, OAS. Appreciate it. I'm glad you like what you see. I'm glad you decided to join us today, and I very much hope to see you back here in the future after the stream ends. And, well, not after the stream ends, but like the next time I stream. My body is digesting food, and also... Oh, yeah, I had to turn off StreamerBot, so my alerts are a little broken today. But normally, what would happen when you redeem that particular channel point reward is you would hear my voice say, Carol Baskin. Because I'm from Oklahoma, so I can imitate the accent, Tiger King accent real well. But yeah. Also, another reason our government is trying to exercise its power over our bodies to control us. Remember he married a Karen. A treasonous Karen who tried to overthrow the government. That's fun. That's the wife of a Supreme Court justice. I'm not screaming on the inside, you are. Right now we have a declining population because when all the Catholics came back from World War II, they started humping like bunnies, and that's how we got the baby boomer generation. And my mom was one of, let's see, I have an Uncle Gary, an Aunt Sue, an Aunt Mary, an Aunt Ann, an Aunt Lori, my mom. She was one of 6 children. And that's just the aunts and uncles I can remember. Oh, she also had a brother named Tim, who ironically, or funnily enough, the day he died is the day I was born. Not in the same year. It happened a long time ago, and it happened because he got ran over in a drag race, and the kid who hit him and killed him with his car was the son of the mayor. So the mayor pulled some strings to let his son get off scot-free. And it was really traumatic for my mom because she was really close to him. And he died on November 15th, and that is also my birthday. So it's a weird kind of funny coincidence, but yeah. Oh, I'm actually going to talk about all the other laws that are going to be in jeopardy now that this has happened, but that's on a future slide. So yeah, my stepmother, I think, was one of 13 kids. Like, people were popping out babies left, right, and center. It was like women in hospitals were just like machine gunning kids out. Bah, 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 bah. And we had a huge population boom. And that population boom is a big part of the reason why our generation, people whose parents are baby boomer age, like people my age, moving to Canada, fuck this. I mean, there's arguments to do that, oh yes, and there's also arguments to try and stay and fight. You know, I want to be hopeful. I don't want to believe that all hope is lost yet. I don't want to believe that we're like 5 years away from legitimately turning into Gilead. But it's bad. And we'll get to more details on why as to what that is in a few slides. So, because baby boomers, there were so many of them spending so much money on dumb consumptive shit and working and making money and paying taxes, there was a nice, wonderful, comfy economic boom for many, many years. But now they're old, they're starting to die off, and they didn't have as many babies as their parents did. And unfortunately, for better or worse, America is a consumer-based economy, consumption-based economy. We need to make money doing jobs that don't matter so that we can turn around and waste money on dumb shit we don't need in order to make the economy grow and thrive. That is the country and the world we're living in today. Giant wall around SCOTUS. I think there are some well, that's not fair to the blue people. I was about to say there's some states we could build a wall around, but you know, there are blue havens in places like Texas. Like, honestly, based on the demographics right now, Texas should be a blue state. But it is so fucking gerrymandered that it's almost impossible for the population demographics to be accurately represented in government right now. And I think I actually have more of that on a future slide, and let's not, so yeah, our government is trying to control the population by forcing us to give birth because they're worried about a long-term economic recession caused by declining birth rates. And there's devil's advocate arguments to be made for that, but at the end of the day, I think if you get enough smart people together to really think about the problem and come up with a sensible solution, I don't think a declining population necessarily has to tank an economy. We have to get together and retool how we live our lives and build our economy back based on what we need instead of, blind, idiotic consumption. But I'm not an economist. I have a lot of teaching in economic theory, but I'm not one professionally. And of course, our good old friend, systemic racism. So, okay, we're going to watch a short video real quick. Or we'll at least listen to the audio, if I can't bring it up on screen.
And right.
Okay, I'm going to try and bring this. Oh, it's already on my screen. Cool. So this is a woman named Jane Seymour, I believe. Let me Google that real quick to make sure I'm not getting her name wrong and disrespecting her. Yeah, no, that is not her name. I don't think. Hold on. Oh, wait, I Googled the wrong thing. Jane Elliott. That is her name, Jane Elliott. That is the woman you're seeing on the screen right now. And she has this very insightful thing to say about what is going on right now with SCOTUS and the forced birthings and everything. Oh, Katie, well, hey, you know what? Let's watch it again.
Right now, white people are really frightened. If you don't understand the destruction of Planned Parenthood offices, and you don't understand the wall that we're going to build on the southern border of the United States.
This was recorded in the 90s,
The
by the way.
Birth by Ben Wattenberg. Ben Wattenberg was a brilliant Jewish man who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute. And he wrote a book, the first paragraph of which says, "The main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country." He was an advisor to presidents of the United States. He wrote the book in 1987. He says if we don't change this and change it rapidly, white people will lose their numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, I'm not misrepresenting this. I'm telling you almost exactly what he says. He says there are three things we can do to solve this. Number one, we could pay women to have babies, as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, and these are his words, not mine, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He says the second thing we could do is increase the number of legal immigrants that are allowed into this country every year. Then once again he says, unfortunately, the vast majority of those wanting to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. The third thing he says, and women had better pay attention to this, 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. Does that sound like racism to you?
Can you talk a little bit about the trauma?
So yeah. So there's the birth dearth, that whole thing. And not only that, but I know there are some organizations and there are some branches of intersectional feminism that get angry at white women especially for the Handmaid's Tale and the Handmaid's Tale imagery. I've been told before by protest organizers, they announced it to everybody who was planning on showing up, not to dress up as the handmaids, not to make references to the Handmaid's Tale at the protest, because the ugly history of BIPOC women getting, having their sexuality controlled and being enslaved and forced to give birth is much, much older and more pervasive and more violent and horrifying than it has ever been for white women. And I think it's fair to mention that. I may disagree with their level of anger at like the show The Handmaid's Tale or dressing up like handmaids for anti-abortion protests. I will respectfully agree to disagree, but I understand where the anger and frustration comes from. Because y'all are sitting back looking at us, maybe, you know, popping some popcorn, being like, white women are getting scared. Silly white women. They don't know the half of it. And you're right, we don't. We are silly white women, and we don't know the half of it. But we're about to find out. And we're fucking scared. Cheers, Greenleaf. Oh, I do not have my vape pen near me, otherwise I'd take a tiny little mini puff with you. Because I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a tension headache, and that would be some nice relief. And I mean, even as recently as 2020, along the border with those, basically, let's call them what they are, concentration camps for brown people that are run by the extrajudicial Border Patrol, which means they are a basically lawless organization with very little oversight, very little governmental control over whether or not the policing they're doing is or isn't violating human rights. There was a doctor at one of those camps that was bringing women in for, they lied about the medical care and procedures they were going to perform, sedated them, and removed their uteruses without their consent. We actually covered a slide before you got here talking about whether or not anti-choice forced birthers are suffering from mental illness. Because all signs point to yes. You don't even have to shake a magic 8-ball to come to that conclusion. Next slide. So here's where, if you're not from the United States, you might learn a whole lot of new information that sounds like it's from a dystopian fictional movie. Vice News is a video about the forced sterilization going on at the border. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Friday is when Roe v. Wade was overturned. But as of Thursday morning, there were still laws and mechanisms in place that made it nearly impossible to get an abortion depending on where you lived. There are these things in the United States which conservatives and Republicans have been passing called trap laws. So in states like Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, there are all these laws that limit the number of abortion clinics in red states. And there was a fabulous John Oliver segment where they showed video of a doctor talking to a woman who wanted an abortion. And he was reading from a pamphlet, a paperwork that the state legally forces him to read to every woman who wants an abortion. And it's full of medical inaccuracies, like telling a woman that she will be at a high risk of developing breast cancer if she aborts her baby. And silly things like that. And he's sitting there telling her these things, then immediately after he's done, he has to stop and say, now, as your doctor and a medical professional, I want to let you know that everything I just told you is not fact, but the state is forcing me to tell you that anyway. Also, forced ultrasounds. In some states, the trap laws force you to get an ultrasound, which, for those of y'all who don't know, ultrasound is when you put jelly on the belly and stick a phallic rod into a woman's vagina to look at an ultrasound picture of the fetus. So it's like, basically, it's legalized sexual assault forced upon you in order to get a legal abortion. Plus, there's a lack of clinics. And I didn't even know this until I started researching it last night, because I thought it was still just the one state, just Mississippi, that only had one legal abortion clinic that was active and operating and providing healthcare for women in the entire state. Only one. Actually, no, it's 6 states as of Thursday, when abortion was still legal in every state in the country. 6 fucking states in this country only had one abortion clinic for the whole state. That is insane. But these wonderful little clinics called pregnancy crisis centers outnumber actual legitimate abortion clinics anywhere from 3 to 1 to 9 to 1. And in states like Mississippi or wherever that only had the one abortion clinic per state, they outnumber them hundreds to 1. The only reason pregnancy crisis centers exist is to lure pregnant women in who aren't very well educated and don't know how abortion works, and give them propaganda to scare them out of aborting the fetus, out of terminating their pregnancy. And if they collect your personal contact information from you, like your phone number, your email address, your actual address, there have been cases of pregnancy crisis centers where people would collect that information and then harass women by calling them on that, what would have been the birthday of the fetus that was aborted, and saying, today would have been your baby's birthday if you hadn't killed it. Or even going to their homes and stalking them and harassing them. And also our fun little Supreme Court ruled back in the 90s, I want to say. I can't remember the exact name of the case, but long story short, the Supreme Court said it was legal for people to protest abortion by stalking abortion clinic workers and doctors who provide abortive services to their homes and harassing them there. Totally legal. Nothing they can do about it. I mean, unless they call the cops and the cops decide to escort the protesters away from the property. But, that's up to the cops. And, most cops are white men, and 40% of them, at least 40% of them, beat their wives. So I don't think they're the type of men that are sympathetic towards abortion providers. Now it's a whole tangent I didn't plan to get off on, but OAS, just so you know, I go off on tangents here all the time. Wonderful little side effect of ADHD. And I do have an official diagnosis. That's not an armchair internet wannabe psychiatrist thing. I actually have medical professionals that are like, yes, you're not imagining things, you're not crazy, you actually have this. Here's some medication. Here's a great therapist who also has ADHD and can help you navigate the waters. Best of luck. And ever since that has happened for me, my life has been on an upward trajectory, and now abortion is illegal and I'm a slut, so my life is in danger once again. Yeah. And just an abortion on its own is expensive. It costs anywhere from a few $100s to $1,000 just for the procedure itself. And, plus all the trap, more of the trap laws, like we were talking earlier about how often abortions happen in the first, second, and third trimesters. There's all these trap laws that, based on unscientific standards of viability of when the fetus is or isn't alive, restrict abortions to the first trimester only in most states. And some they restricted as early as 6 weeks, when if a woman, the earliest a woman usually knows she's pregnant is about 8 weeks. That's how long it takes for the body to change to the point where you start experiencing symptoms of pregnancy. And if you're making abortion illegal before a woman even knows she's pregnant, that's some sick, twisted shit, and that's done on purpose. And here's a really, really fun part of the current debate that's been going on ever since Friday. Mansplainers mansplaining states' rights on the internet. Part of it is coming from the crowd of people who, when the dominoes started toppling back in the 90s and signs were being shown that insidious forces were going to do their damnedest to overturn Roe v. Wade no matter how long it took. States' rights to fuck off, exactly. And we're saying, oh, they'll never overturn Roe v. Wade. It's too popular. That would be wrong. Those people are now on the internet saying, well, abortion isn't totally illegal. It's just going to the states. There's some states where it's still okay, so we don't need to panic while the room is burning down around them. Calm down. You can still get abortions in states where it's legal. Yeah, fuck off Alabama. Oh, fuck off Alabama. Fuck off Mississippi. Fuck off Texas. Fuck off Oklahoma, where I'm currently trapped right now. There are at least 10 states who had trigger laws on the books which made abortion illegal completely in that state the second SCOTUS made their decision. And I think there are 6 more whose trigger laws will make abortion illegal in that state by the end of the month. And then there's a half a dozen states on top of that. I actually think I have this on a future slide, so we'll talk about it in a second. So, number 1, when you delegate human rights to the states, it creates problems. Exhibit A. Slavery. And all the fuckery that happened around there, which led to the most deadly war, the Civil War, that this country has ever been involved in. Not only that, but back then, when states' rights was a thing for slaves, they had this fun little thing called the Underground Railroad, where if you're a slave in a slave state, fuck you. You're allowed to be owned and treated like property, and if you want to escape to an anti-slavery state, you're gonna have to go through this little fun road trip called the Underground Railroad, where anybody can hunt you down and drag you back kicking and screaming to your slave owner for a bounty, and we're about to do the same thing to pregnant women who need abortions. I guarantee you that is going to happen. I mean, just look at the law they passed in Texas. So it doesn't apply specifically to pregnant women yet, but in Texas, for example, any wannabe bounty hunter that's seen Dog the Bounty Hunter, or too many episodes of Dog the Bounty Hunter, and thinks they're going to be some pro-baby badass, can hunt you down, drag you to civil court, and get upwards of $10,000 as a reward for suing you in state court for providing an abortion, for helping a woman get an abortion. And it's not going to be long before they specifically let the bounty hunters target the pregnant women too. I guarantee you. Hey, Markamoto. Welcome. We're having a fun little discussion about abortion. But, and then so we have all these extrajudicial, I swear to God, I'm not an idiot, I can pronounce that word. Yeah, Maris. Like the Border Patrol, like ICE, they're probably gonna get in on it too. Because they already do the rounding up and the illegal detention and the beating and forcibly sterilizing of illegal immigrants, you think they're not going to expand their little charter or whatever it is that gives them the right to do what they're doing without any legal supervision or accountability? You think they're not going to expand that agenda to pregnant women who are trying to illegally cross state borders to get the health care they need? You think that's not going to happen? Are you really that naive? Okay. It won't be long. I guarantee you, I guarantee you, it will not be long before states pass laws making it illegal to travel for the purposes of getting an abortion. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen that political ad where the cops pull over the mom and the little young girl, looks like she's 14, probably got raped by her drunk uncle and impregnated against her will. And the cops suspect that they're driving to another state to get a legal abortion and take him into custody. You just see the young girl crying for her mom and the mom trying to say something to keep her daughter calm as the cops are dragging them out of it. That's going to be reality. Okay. And then if you leave this to the states can and eventually will pass laws making it a crime to abort your baby. And we were talking about this earlier. Maris and Sitley especially were getting excited about it because they're all like, how can I code a privacy app to track my period without it being sold to the government? I hope you guys get success with that. And as soon as my IUD stops working and I start getting a period again, I'll probably hit you up. See if I can beta test a copy of that app. But yeah, they can investigate women by tracking data such as period tracker apps, phone GPS, possibly medical records, if states pass laws to make an exception. Because with pot becoming legal in a lot of places and having wide support at local police level, they're looking for another excuse to pull people over. That could be a contributing factor. I don't think it's as big of a factor though, because so one of the main reasons that cops want pot to be illegal, other than they're racist and it gives them an excuse to harass black people and incarcerate them at a much higher rate for nonviolent crimes than they deserve, is a little fun thing called civil asset forfeiture. If a cop has even the tiniest shred of reason to suspect you might be a drug dealer, they can send a SWAT team to raid your home, dig through your underwear drawers, dip their hands in your cookie jars, take whatever assets they think they can turn around and sell, and use that money to fund their own precincts and line their own pockets, even if you're not guilty. It's legalized theft allowed by police precincts. But although they're losing, some jurisdictions are losing money in states where pot is being legalized, they're getting that money back in tax revenue from the sales of marijuana. That some of that tax revenue, I'm sure in some states and some municipalities, is being redirected towards the cops so that they're not in need of civil asset forfeiture as much as they were before. Yeah, giga bullshit to the max. Yeah. If they need a reason, they'll make one. There is no accountability. And the funny thing is that statistically speaking, there are so many rapes and sexual assaults that even if I had a magic wand and I granted the wish that this world take rape and sexual assault seriously, and then every woman who's ever been raped or sexually assaulted went to their local police station right now and reported their rape, there would literally not be enough cops in this country to arrest all the rapists and predators. Like, that's how prevalent the problem is on a mathematical scale. Like, if every single person who was a victim of that crime right now went and reported it, and the cops actually took them seriously and started investigating, there would be a wait list and a backlog of cases. As it is, there are hundreds of thousands of untested rape kits backlogged because our system doesn't have the resources to process them all, nor do most people care, even though it's such a prevalent problem. But you know, the district attorneys in red states will make it a priority to investigate women who travel out of state to get an abortion once the forced birthers pass the laws that make that okay. And you know they're going to pass laws on the previous point that we were just talking about to make an exception to medical record privacy to see, Mary Sue, what's her face, went to her gynecologist and tested positive for pregnancy in February, but she went back in March and she was no longer pregnant anymore. Maybe we need to look into this. Maybe Mary is an evil slut who killed her baby and needs to go to jail. They won't make it a capital punishment because they're trying to force more white babies to be born. But they will impose some sort of sanctions, which will involve either a short amount of jail time, because, unless you literally authorize prison guards to rape them, they can't get pregnant while they're in jail. So, a short amount of jail time, big fines and fees to keep them trapped in the cycle of poverty, to where they have to get married and have sex with a man and keep popping out babies in order to survive. It's going to be a vicious fucking cycle. It's going to be really fucking ugly. Yeah, you cannot leave human rights up to the states. You just can't. States' rights is a concept designed to let state and local governments control issues which are relevant to them and only them, based on geography, demographics, other local issues. Human rights are not local issues. They are a universal issue. Like, me living in Oklahoma doesn't prevent the possibility that my body could get pregnant in the presence of sperm. Like, there's no geographic or local way that your chance of getting pregnant will be reduced. Like, you can get pregnant anywhere. You can get pregnant in Oklahoma, in Texas, in Mississippi, in Alabama, in North Dakota, South Dakota, California, New York, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Wyoming, Nevada, Florida. I'm not going to name off all 50 states, but you get the point. You can get pregnant anywhere. So it makes no sense to make it illegal in one geographic space, but legal in another. Makes no sense. And yeah, point I touched on earlier, I probably should have waited until we actually got to this slide, but yeah. Deadliest war we've ever fought in was on our own soil, the American Civil War, and it killed more soldiers than any other war we have ever fought. Even World War II. Fewer people died in World War II than died in the American Civil War. All because we left an important human rights issue up to the states, and we thought it wasn't going to end violently. And, devil's advocate argument, even though it's not really devil's advocate, it's common sense advocate, would it make sense to make insulin illegal in certain states? I mean, from a medical perspective, the actual devil's advocate argument for that is that taking insulin makes insulin resistance worse, which makes your diabetes worse, which makes you need more insulin, which makes your insulin resistance worse, which makes your diabetes worse, which makes you need more insulin, which so on and so forth. It's medically, it's called a positive feedback loop. So there are there could be a slew of health advocates tomorrow who get on their high horse about making insulin illegal because in the long run, it's actually worse for your body than the acute danger of hyperglycemia. Now, if you're 30 minutes away from a diabetic coma because your blood sugar is at 400 parts per whatever, that's a stupid thing. Or appendectomy is illegal, or open heart surgery, because they would need a blood transfusion, and your religion says that blood transfusions are wrong, so you're going to make open heart surgery illegal in your state, or vaccines. Hybrid STIs we'll have because Thomas wants to get rid of condoms too. I think birth control is... I do have a slide coming up about the laws that are also good. I think I do. Okay, I may have a slide about which laws are in danger, but if I don't, at the end of this, we can stop and look it up. So, question that a lot of people might be asking, especially people who aren't from the US, why is this happening now? Specifically right now in 2022. It's because 5 of 9 of our Supreme Court justices committed perjury when they were basically being interviewed for the job by Congress. What usually happens with Supreme Court justices is Congress will get a small committee of senators and representatives together to sit down and interview a prospective judge that the president nominates, and they give the yay or nay on whether or not that Supreme Court justice is nominated to the court. 5 of them, when they were doing their job interview, they were asked, is Roe v. Wade legal precedent, or would you overturn it? They all said, no, it's totally legal precedent. Yeah, nothing's gonna happen to Roe v. Wade. No, I promise. No, nothing bad. It'll stay the law of the land. I swear. I swear under oath. I'm literally committing the crime of perjury right now when I tell you that Roe v. Wade is safe. 5 of 9 of them told that lie under oath, which is illegal. And there are politicians right now, and Cheeto nominated 3 of them. And he lost the popular vote. He was not supposed to be our president. He won by a technicality of the Electoral fucking College. So anybody who's calling this country right now a representative democracy is living in fantasy land. And the funnest insult to injury is that 2 of those 5 justices who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade are fucking sex criminals. I mean, Brett Kavanaugh was at a party one day when he was younger, had some beers, and decided it would be fun to take a woman named Dr. Balsy Ford. She wasn't a doctor back then, but she was in her bathing suit. He got her alone in a room. He pushed her down on a bed. He tried to force his fingers into her vagina by working around her bathing suit. He tried to force his penis inside of her by working around her bathing suit. Luckily for her, her bathing suit was too tight and he was too miscoordinated or whatever. And she eventually was able to push him off and escape that room. But he did that. He did that. She testified in front of Congress that he did that. And people in Congress to this day are more angry that the truth came out and humiliated him and embarrassed his family than they are that they nominated a fucking rapist to our Supreme Court. Sorry for getting a little emotional there, but I'm just that fucking pissed. And a fun little paragraph here. For people who like gregarious Pfister, who think this isn't a problem and think rape culture is totally cool. Unfortunately, the U.S. justice system was created for rapists by rapists in order to protect themselves from their victims. Sexual assault victims are not considered guilty, sexual assault victims are considered guilty lying whores until proven innocent. Hundreds of thousands of rape kits remain untested to this day. There's a link to the source. The laws that are on the books are nonsensical and barely punish these violent criminals. Only 6% of credibly guilty rapists are ever punished. Religious zealots have been funding the political campaigns of pro-life politicians and appointing pro-life judges to the lower courts in our court system so that they have like a fast-track superhighway through our judicial system from a tiny little meaningless legal challenge against abortion rights that goes directly to the Supreme Court, did not pass go, did not collect $200. There's a few of those lawsuits that were the final big dominoes that left this hole wide open to overturn Roe v. Wade. I can't remember the names of them exactly. You can probably Google them if you're super, super curious, but I did not become a lawyer on purpose. So, what will happen next? Nothing good. We briefly have touched on the trigger laws, but yes, like I said, 10 states had trigger laws on the books which made abortion illegal the second Roe was overturned. 5 more states will make abortion illegal within a month because of those same trigger laws. 5 more states will probably make it illegal soon, but they didn't have any laws that made it automatic. 10 states are up in the air. But you know what? There's a lot of gerrymandering in those 10 states, so it's hard to be optimistic that all of them are going to do the right thing. Only 18 states are likely to keep abortion legal. Even though pro-choice politicians technically have a small majority in the House and Senate, primary elections will happen this year, and many of them are expected to lose their seats to forced birther candidates. And then there's gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is when you take a swath of land in the U.S. and you cut it up into very specific pieces so that, say you take Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is actually, I think Oklahoma City is purple, if not more blue-ish than red. But if you cut the districts up so that, there's like a 60-40 split between Republicans and Democrats in that district, if everybody goes and votes at the same rate, you're never going to win. I mean, unless you're a Republican, but you're cheating. And yeah. So, voter suppression, also a big problem. Look what happened in the midst of the COVID emergency when we rolled back voter restrictions. A lot more representatives from blue areas actually won their elections. Crazy how that happens when people actually get to vote. It's like when more people vote, more Democrat representatives get elected. When fewer people vote, suddenly everything's a red state. Funny how that works. Let's see. And a little bit of tough love for my Democrat politicians out there. Y'all are weak little fucking testicles. You're letting this happen. Grow a fucking spine. Stand up to these bitches. Fight fire with fire and cheat and do your own gerrymandering and voter suppression laws if you have to. I don't care what it takes. My life is at stake. My life and the lives of people I care about is literally at stake. Don't freaking hug me. You're just gonna make me cry harder. I mean, unless you have some sort of crying fetish and that's what you want. I hope you're close, because I'm about to stop crying. Hurry up and finish in time. Hey, white woman tears, maybe they'll get something done. Yeah. How do we solve this problem? Legally, our options are limited, but, you know, definitely if you live in the US, keep track of your voter registration status, because another fun voter suppression technique they like to use against us is to purge people from the voter registration rolls for the tiniest and stupidest of reasons. And if they purge you and they don't send you any notification, when you go to vote on voting day, which for me is tomorrow, is the Oklahoma primary elections, and you bet your fucking ass I'm gonna wake up early and make sure I'm there. Exactly, Sitley. Fucking exactly. Nail on the head, dude. Yeah, if you go to vote and you're no longer registered to vote, I think you can still ask for a provisional ballot, but I don't know if they'll actually count it. You know, Nineless, I know profit is a part of it and capitalism is a part of it, but at the end of the day, something about living in America gives people a huge, throbbing, rock-hard boner for punishment, causing harm and suffering. Yeah, honestly, I think the baby boomers fucked up by having as many kids as, well, baby boomers' parents fucked up by having as many babies as they can, because it forced an entire generation of people in the US to grow up with scarce resources, fighting tooth and nail just to be seen, just to be loved, just to be fed, just to be clothed, fighting amongst their own siblings. And so when baby boomers grow up, you know, they had a harsh life growing up. And they grew up with the whole mental concept of, I had to fight for the right to exist because I had a dozen brothers and sisters and my parents didn't have the resources to take care of me the way I deserved to be taken care of. Nobody raised them to be empathetic. Nobody raised them to understand that the situation they grew up with, the scarcity they grew up with, was not okay. So because they had to suffer growing up, they turn around and lash out and give more suffering out into the world because it makes them feel better about themselves. And they don't understand and they don't care that it's only causing more problems. It's honestly, in my opinion, having more than 3 children is a form of child abuse. But that's my radical opinion on that. And I only have that radical opinion because I've seen what having 7 children, 13 children, will do to them mentally and emotionally. My mother is probably the one I got my ADHD from, especially the emotional dysregulation. She grew up with so little support and responsible parenting that her brain changed in ways that made it impossible for her to regulate her emotions because of the trauma of growing up a neglected children in a family that was too big for its britches. You know, my stepmother, she had even more siblings than my mom, and she's even more crazy than my mom. That narcissistic sack of shit. She was treated so poorly growing up, fighting for survival, fighting to get noticed, fighting to get resources among 12, 13 other siblings, that she's the type of twisted bitch who, she's one of those people, if she has a problem with you, she's not going to go at you directly. She may go at you directly a little bit, but if she's really mad, if she really wants to hurt you, she goes after the people you care about. When she decided she was just going to have this eternal blood feud with my mother, she started abusing me and my brother. She started hurting innocent children just to cause my mother pain. And then, turn that around several years later, when I ended the no contact with my dad and tried to get back into his life, which I've been successful with, her and her daughter got all pissy and stingy about letting me spend time with the grandkids, with my step nieces and step nephews, because they accused me of wanting to hurt those children to get back at them. Definitely a case of one finger pointing forward, three fingers pointing back at you. And I sat them down. I made it explicitly clear to them that I would never in a million years, especially after what was done to me as a child, never, ever, ever would I hurt an innocent kid just to get back at the mother. That is disgusting and cruel. And I would never do that because I know how much it hurts when it was done to me. But for some reason, people in America, when pain happens to them, they don't understand, they don't know how to be the bigger person and realize that they can't turn around and put that pain back out into the world. They love it. They relish it. For some reason, they get like an adrenaline rush and a spike of dopamine when they cause the harm, when they cause to others the harm that was done to them. And I think that mentality got especially bad with the baby boomers, because like I said, they're fighting for survival among 12 billion other siblings with parents who didn't have the resources to handle them all. And so baby boomers inflicted their cruelty on Gen Xers and millennials. And we, through some miracle of insight, are turning around saying, you know what, that's bullshit. Like, we need to make changes to our society and to our personalities and to our mental health and turn our society into a world where we're not inflicting needless suffering on people for shiggles. And that's why you have all the baby boomers like, participation trophies, snowflakes, y'all are too soft, No, we're not soft. We're the hardest motherfuckers out there. Because we're strong enough to realize that a cruel, harsh world where people have to struggle just to get by is wrong. And we're standing up and we're trying to make changes to change that. Oh man, that's a whole ass rant I did not expect to go off on. I've only been live for 2 hours? Like 2 hours and a quarter? Wow. But yeah, so trying to solve the problem of forced birth and female death and poverty and trauma that's going to be the direct result of all of this SCOTUS bullshit. Know your voter registration. I just got off work and can have sound again. Yeah, I think the emotional exhaustion is definitely playing a part in distorting my perception of time right now. Hi, Nineless. Glad you're off work. I think this is my very last slide, but obviously the VOD will be up. And you know, I think I'm actually going to directly publish this to YouTube after I get done here and put it live. And put a catchy little clickbaity SEO headline on it and see what happens. What I usually do with my VODs is I upload them to YouTube, but I keep them private because I don't know if I want to publish them. I don't know if they're like entertaining or good enough to publish. It really kind of sucks that there's no way to display chat in YouTube videos, which I know is the reason why a lot of people like have chat pop up on screen, but like I don't want to do that on my channel because me, for example, there are some people in the Twitch community who are very popular among my circle of friends because they're very charismatic and people don't take the time to get to know them personally. but I have gotten the chance to get to know them personally, and they're full-blown fucking sociopaths. And I literally have them blacklisted and blocked and banned in every conceivable way so that I don't even have to see those slime balls in chat. And I can just live blissfully ignorant of their existence. And I know for a long time, when the pain was still fresh and the wounds were still healing, when just seeing that person's name in chat gave me a spike of cortisol. And so I had to completely block them out just to get my own sanity under control. Nowadays I could probably unblock them and deal with it just fine, but that takes work. I gotta refresh myself on how fucking BTTFOZ works. I gotta dig through my settings. I gotta change shit and delete things. It just, no. They can just go on not existing as far as I'm concerned. What the hell do you want? Oh, whatever. Discord. Yeah, so no, if you live in the US, definitely check right now. Stop watching my stream and go Google. Go check right now whether or not you're registered to vote where you live. Find out where your polling station is. Find out when your next elections are. See if you can look up a sample ballot and do research on which candidates are running in your area. Make sure you go out to vote, mask up. If there are any discrepancies when you get there, like if anybody at the polling place is saying, oh, no, sorry, you're not allowed to vote today because blah, blah, blah. Request a provisional ballot. You got your ballot last week? See, Markamoto, I'm going to have to go and vote in person, which I'm not happy about because COVID cases are back on the rise. Voting links in description. I think it would be impossible to link to all 50 states. But no, you can Google it. You can Google like Texas voter registration. And it should take you right there. Also, if you live in a deep red state, consider registering as an independent. Even if most of your values are deep royal blue, register as an independent because conservatives and Republican candidates, they're more likely to suspect you're secretly a libertarian than a secret Democrat. And in some states, you can vote in both primary elections, even though you're staunchly in one camp. They go halvesies here on it in Oklahoma. Like I can vote as an independent, as a registered independent. I can vote in the Democrat primary elections, but I can't vote in the Republican ones. Yeah, and when you fuck with the numbers, it's hard for them to gerrymander accurately. So, because then they got it. Like if everybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth area right now who is a Democrat changed their voter registration to independent, Republicans wouldn't know. They wouldn't know whether to cut up this district to include or exclude the independents. Because, and that interferes, since that interferes with their gerrymandering, it makes it easier for us to elect the motherfuckers who actually want to represent us for the right reasons and not just because of greed and ego and power hunger. And, talk to your friends. Say like, hey, let's have a party. Let's get together on Tuesday. Let's all carpool to our precinct. Let's vote this shit down. Or up, or out, or in. Just royally just up their election so only Vermin Supreme wins them all. Just royally just up their election so only Vermin Supreme wins them all. having trouble figuring out what you're getting at. That could be a brain fart on my end, though. But also, volunteering, if you have the free time, I probably should actually be doing more volunteering. I mean, I work from home part-time. Mindless words. Zing, got him. kind of owned him there a little bit. Or he kind of owned you there a little bit, Mindless. Sorry. Ugh, why am I being all awkward right now? But, you know, and I honestly, the thought of running for some dumb, dinky, meaningless local office has passed my mind. And then kind of working my way up. Because I can be charismatic as shit when I want to be. Like, my mother she could have been a politician. She could have been a great politician. She could charm the pants off anybody within like 30 seconds of meeting them. You know? And plus, I'm fucking smart. The Revenge of the Mobile Keyboard. I may have messed that one up. I'm smart. I'm charismatic. I can figure out how to work my way up. I can figure out how to manipulate and play people. I don't do it on purpose because I'm not a sociopath, but see, the weird thing about being raised by abusive narcissists and sociopaths is that me being an empathetic person, I still have a soul. I still have good morals and a conscience. But I know the game they play and I know how their mind works. So I know how to walk the walk and talk the talk and pretend to be the type of psycho that would want to be a politician. Yeah, we need more younger people, hell yeah. And your mobile keyboard fucking sucks, yeah. And just research your candidates. Try not to waste your vote on a long shot if you think that it's a very, very close race and voting for someone who can win is more pragmatic than somebody whose ideals you align most with. That's actually what I'm going to be researching here in a little bit, because there's, it's Oklahoma. The odds of any of the Democrats that I'm going to be voting on tomorrow actually winning their elections is slim. Unfortunately. Yeah. No, you know what they don't understand, Mindless? A lot of baby boomers, I don't know whether the politicians are being disingenuous or whether they're actually dumb enough to believe what they're saying, but every time I hear an older person say, the federal debt is out of control and our government needs to balance its budget like I balance my checkbook, I want to scream. Because that person obviously has never taken a macroeconomics class in their life. It's just, that's not how big government, country economies work. Especially now that globalization is so much of a bigger thing now than it used to be. Let's see, is this the last slide? How can you help right now? Okay, so you can, and I'm just gonna put this in chat. You can view this slideshow, and you can click on all the sources I hyperlinked through the whole entire presentation. Not just to show that I did my research. This is not bullshit. This is not propaganda. Like, these are actual real facts. And two, like this link here takes you to organizations where you can hopefully go. Yeah, 10 abortion rights organizations accepting donations to support the fight. Right there, just one click away. And I actually disabled my tip button for this stream because, well, there were two reasons. One, apparently people who were tipping me via PayPal got to see my legal name. And that's not good when you're female on the internet and crazy stalkers can Google your extremely rare last name and hunt down your address. And also because I didn't want to make any money off the stream. I'm not trying to make a profit off of my pain and the pain of other women out there. I just want the truth to get out. Because even today, I feel like some of you, even some of you here in the US, learned something new. I mean, if you want to like stroke my ego and tell me, yes, that's totally true. You taught me something new that I didn't know today. That would feel real nice. Okay, so I want some damn ranked choice voting. I have such a hard time getting my friends to vote here in Utah because their politics are liberal, but their votes have never counted. That's at least how they feel. Yeah. In the UK, to get rid of the Tories Conservatives because of the first past opposed system and no proportional representation. In a couple of recent by-elections, some major upsets have been caused in 2 different parts of the country. It was a tactical vote swap organized online to make sure the best non-Tory party in that area won. It worked. Okay. Our politicians are puppets or idiots in suits. Yeah, they're entirely beholden unto whoever's donating the most money to their campaign. Goddamn prescription drugs that I need to be emotionally stable and happy, making me not talk goods. Yeah. Even your PM was finger wagging at us about the decision. Oh, yeah. Boris getting on his podium, talking about all the, well, not confessing to all the abortions that have helped him get where he is in life, but if it forms a dissonance, he will perform whatever routine he thinks will endear him to whoever is most useful. Yep. Didn't hear a word, but I'm fine with it. I'll need to know more than humans are suffering. Everything after that is fuel for the fire. Embarrassing that even Boris is laughing at us. Yeah. Yeah, wait, so Sitley, your message up there, I'm not as well versed in UK politics as I am US politics, but I know there's some sort of system where certain politicians can get together and trigger a spontaneous vote if they think they have enough political clout in that moment to get the most votes. I think they did that in Canada too. So I'm guessing you're saying people got together online and organized their voting to vote in the candidates they wanted despite the fact that where they were at the time, they weren't being accurately represented. Find a source? Yeah, I'd love that link. I know humans are suffering due to shitty people. That's all I need to know on the side of human rights. Yeah. You haven't spoken to them since Friday? They're your cousins in the UK? Yeah, it's hard to know what to say right now. Other than to just scream obscenities at the top of your fucking lungs while you're ripping chunks of your hair out. Okay. Yeah, also taking action yourself. Like, if you can find local organizations that are gathering resources together and helping women with costs, with transportation especially, that, I mean, if I knew anybody near me who needed a ride to Denver, I'm sure Scott would let us sleep on his couch. Or I could just get a hotel or whatever. And also keep a close eye on the laws in your state. I actually haven't been as good about this with Oklahoma's trigger laws, because I know that as bad as the law that passed in Texas is, I know that Stidiot, our Governor Stitt, I know he pulled a hold my beer move and passed a law that was even worse here in Oklahoma, but I don't know all the specific details of it. Actually, we could Google that. And that is the end of my presentation. Okay, so yeah, let's Google. Okay. Let's go to the NPR source. Fuck local news. You're owned by that fucking Sinclair whatever. Can't trust you for information. Here he is, Governor Stidiot. Remember this man's hideous, unfuckable face? Okay, so nation's strictest abortion ban, and this was back in April. You can say the first in the nation to effectively end availability of the procedure. State lawmakers approved the ban, enforced by civil lawsuits, rather than criminal prosecution. You hear that? Civil lawsuits, not criminal prosecution. What did we talk about earlier? How anti-abortion, or how forced birthers are all about control. They want to penalize these women financially. They want to take away their resources and their means of living a happy, free life to force them to get married and make babies. Let's see. Yeah, Maris. Yeah. Prove the ban enforced by civil lawsuits rather than criminal prosecution, similar to a Texas law that passed last year. The law takes effect immediately upon signature and prohibits all abortions with few exceptions. Abortion providers have said they will stop performing the procedure as soon as the bill is signed. Trying to think of what voice to use. What is the most brain dead voice I can possibly make with my throat?
A promise of the government that is governed outside the place of public legislation by communication of this, and I am proud to keep a promise to this earth.
The first-term Republican said in a statement.
From the bunch of factors like Bush's platform, is a military responsibility as human beings who is so conscious of toxic positions as a legislative level. That is the happens the plus.
What do you guys think? I think I did a good impression. I think that was pretty spot on. I think if you just listened to the audio, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between me and Stidiot. Okay. The impact will be disastrous for Oklahomans, state policy analyst for the abortion rights supporting Guttmacher Institute. Also have severe ripple effects, especially for Texas patients who had been driving to Oklahoma in large numbers after the Texas abortion ban went into effect. The bills are part of an aggressive, okay. Can we get details, please? Can we get past the fluff and give specifics? The only exceptions are to save the life of a pregnant woman or if the pregnancy is the result of rape or incest. So at least we're doing that. But seriously, the rape incest argument, that shouldn't even be a thing. If a woman needs an abortion, she needs an abortion, regardless of her reasoning for it. Just let her get health care. The bill specifically authorizes doctors to remove a dead unborn child caused by spontaneous abortion or miscarriage, or to remove an ectopic pregnancy, or a potentially, we discussed ectopic pregnancies earlier. The law also does not apply to the use of morning after pills such as Plan B or any type of contraception, yet. I did not make that slide. I was going to make a slide of all the really important laws that are about to get unpassed and all of the people who are going to be vulnerable because of that. They're coming after contraception. because they consider most contraception to be an abortificant. I think that's how you pronounce it. They think that IUDs and birth control pills and morning after pills, since they prevent implantation, that they're killing a fertilized egg and therefore committing, murder. You don't want me? Yeah, no. You're fine. I am a twat, but, so you don't have to worry about making me look like one. I do well enough on my own. But, so they're coming after contraception. They're going to be coming after gay marriage. Let's see what else. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So we'll read that. Let's finish reading this first. See, the meds are helping me tangent a little bit less, just a smidge. Contraception, consensual gay sex, and gay marriage. Yeah. Okay, so 2 of Oklahoma's 4 abortion clinics there were only 4 abortion clinics in this state. I didn't even know that. 2 of the 4 already stopped providing abortions after the governor signed a 6-week ban earlier this month. So on Friday there were 2 working abortion clinics in my state. That's great. Now obviously there's 0. With the state's 2 remaining abortion clinics expected to stop offering services, it is unclear what will happen to women who qualify under one of those exceptions. The law's author, as doctors will be empowered to decide which women qualify. White women will qualify. Lots and lots of white women will qualify. But you know who won't? Oh, actually, no, wait, I got that backwards. Lots of women probably won't qualify. Unless the doctor wants to, I mean, at this point, though, it really doesn't matter because it's not a viable pregnancy anyway, and they're not potentially saving white babies by denying white women care. Providers and abortion rights activists warn that trying to provide qualification could prove difficult and even dangerous in some circumstances. Yeah. Because what if it's rape and your rapist wants to kill you? Or, your violent domestic partner raped you and got you pregnant and, wants to kill you for trying to abort his child. In addition to the Texas-style bill already signed into law, the measure is one of at least 3 anti-abortion bills sent this year to STIT. Styled after a first-of-its-kind Texas law that U.S. Supreme Court has allowed to remain in place that allows private citizens to sue abortion providers or anyone who helps a woman obtain an abortion. Other Republican-led states sought to copy Texas' ban. Idaho's, blah, blah, blah. Don't care about that. Because I don't live in Idaho. The third Oklahoma bill is to take effect this summer and would make it a felony to perform an abortion, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. That bill contains no exceptions for rape or incest. So, the woman is allowed to get an abortion if it's rape or incest or her life depends on it. But the doctor who saves her life will go to prison for 10 years and be slapped with a felony when he gets out, which means he or she, or non-binary doctors exist, I'm sure. And then once they get out of prison, since they're slapped with a felony, they won't be able to vote or possibly get a job anywhere except maybe a private clinic that doesn't care about that shit. I mean, if you're a doctor, you're probably well off enough that you know people who will hire you despite having a felony. But those laws put together make no sense. My brain is breaking. How do you make it okay to give the woman an abortion, but put the doctor who gives her the abortion in prison? only if you rename gun stores to retroactive abortion clinics, so they're illegal too. Yeah. If I could give birth to bullets instead of babies, this wouldn't be happening. That just gave me a wonderful mental image of myself up in the holsters in a hospital gown, just like spewing bullets out of my vagina like it's a fucking, what's that big gun that's always on the top of the cars in the Rambo movies? What's that called? A 50 cal? It's about punishment. It's about punishment and control. I just don't see the... It's a full magazine. Congratulations. Oh my God, Sitley, can you imagine the gender reveal parties that would be had if we could give birth to bullets instead of babies? You think they're starting wildfires now? Oh my God. That's a clippable moment. Okay, so yeah, and like they said, we have the bounty hunter system in place now. We copied Texas's bill. And they do that. The people who pass these laws, they copy paste and they make it as copyable and pasteable as humanly possible so that other states who want to do the same tomfuckery can get those laws passed and ratified and enforced as soon as possible. Does she have a semi-auto mag or nah? So we have the bounty hunter system. We have private citizens who can, you know, if I drive my friend to an abortion clinic in Denver, when I get back, they can sue me. Couldn't get her pregnant, I only had a semi. Oh, I'm loving this. These jokes need to keep going. In other words, don't terminate this line of conversation. Let's keep it flowing, keep it going. No. So I could get back and I could be sued for doing that, and then the person who sues me gets $10,000. And I'm not sure if it's awarded from the state or if I'm the one who has to pay. Because if they try and sue me for that, they ain't getting a dime. I ain't got money. Yeah, okay, so went over that. Oklahoma's crazy pants town. Yeah, so. Oh, and there's plenty of legal mansplainers on the internet that are doing the same calm down, it's not that bad thing about this too. They're out there saying, you know, well, he was the only justice that called for it, and actually these other justices, in their opinions, said they're not gonna relook at these laws and they are gonna keep them as law. And if you actually believe that, I got a swamp to sell you I got a bridge to sell you and swamp. Yeah, but okay, so Supreme Court Justice Twat Face McFuckwad on Friday called for overturning the constitutional. I probably didn't need the deranged voice for that. I probably just could have said Supreme Court Justice Clarence McFuckface. Twat waffle mix sexual harassment bestiality porn. Yeah, that was a fun part of everything Anita Hill accused him of back in the day. Tricking her into watching bestiality porn at work. Yeah. Called for overturning the constitutional rights the court had affirmed for access to contraceptives and LGBTQ rights in an opinion occurring with the majority to decision to overturn. Yeah, some editor dropped the ball. That's a typo. In his separate opinion, Thomas acknowledged that Friday's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Organization, does not directly affect any rights besides abortion. But he argued that the Constitution's Due Process Clause does not secure a right to an abortion or any other substantive rights, and he urged the court to apply that reasoning to other landmark cases. Clearance too many days past retirement, Thomas. Yep. He wrote, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. I may not be pronouncing that right. Since Samuel Alito's draft majority opinion overturning Raid was leaked earlier this year, Democrats and liberal activists have warned that the conservative majority would soon turn its attention to other rights that the court had affirmed. Yep. The 3 cases mentioned are all landmark decisions establishing certain constitutional rights. In Griswold v. Connecticut, the court ruled in 1965 that married couples had a right to access contraceptives. In 2003, the court said Lawrence v. Texas that states could not outlaw consensual gay sex. And in 2015, Obergefell v. Hodges established a constitutional right to same-sex marriage. While Thomas's comments outline the worst-case scenario for the majority's liberal critics, it's unclear whether the other conservative justices are willing to go as far as the court's most senior member. Alito stressed okay, so here's where the "well, actually, calm down, hysterical feminists." Alito stressed in the majority opinion that his reasoning applies only to abortion and rejected any assertions that the rationale in Dobbs could extend to Griswold, Lawrence, or Obergefell. That's like my Worcestershire. Nothing in this opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. Same thing you said when you were interviewing for the job and talking about Roe, you dipshit. You expect us to believe you? These 3 members of the court's liberal wing, Justice Breyer, Keegan, and Sotomayor, rejected the assurance in their dissent, saying the majority's willingness to overturn the landmark decades-old decision leaves other precedents vulnerable. Duh. No one should be confident that the majority is done with its work, they wrote. The right Roe and Casey recognized does not stand alone. To the contrary, the court has linked it for decades to other settled freedoms involving bodily integrity, familial relationships, and procreation. Most obviously, the right to terminate a pregnancy arose straight out of the right to purchase and use contraception. In turn, those rights led, more recently, to rights of same-sex intimacy and marriage. They are all parts of the same constitutional fabric protecting autonomous decision-making over the most personal of life decisions. Fucking-men. Amen. The majority could write just as long an opinion showing, for example, that until the mid-20th century, there was no support in American law for a constitutional right to obtain contraceptives. So, one of 2 things must be true. Either the majority does not really believe in its own reasoning, or if it does, all rights that have no history stretching back to the mid-19th century are insecure. Either the mass of the majority's opinion is hypocrisy, or additional constitutional rights are under threat. It is one or the other. Yeah. It's very sad. It's very depressing. And it makes me want to take a shit. So I'm going to go do that. Let's take a short little break. Get up, stretch your legs. It's good for you. It's healthy. And if you live in the U.S. where privatized healthcare is making us go bankrupt, the blood clot you get from not stretching your legs enough could kill you or put you $20,000 in debt. So that's another reason to get up and move around. Okay, so be right back, screen now. Netflix, what's that? You know that had... For some reason, my brain tried to make like 12 words come out at the same time. I've never heard of that yet. Although if it's as big of a deal as warrior nun, yes, you heard that right. A warrior who is also a Catholic nun. Korean, Dude, Korean zombie stuff is popping off. I don't know where it's coming from, but whatever's happening in South Korea, do you need help? Like, I mean, although I fucking love the zombie genre in general. So, Kingdom is good. Hold on, let's Google. Oh, it might help if I turn my keyboard back on. Nope. All of Us Are Dead. Kingdom's on there. Isn't there a train to... Oh shit, Collider? No, fuck Collider. And you know why I say fuck Collider? Because, I may or may not have been familiar with the way they operate and treat their freelancers. And I may or may not be aware of the fact that a little over a year ago, what they were doing was paying their freelancers $20 an article, equivalent to $20 an hour. And then the piranha pit of article assignments started to get hyper competitive to the point where freelancers may or may not have been stealing assignments outright from other writers because they gained favoritism with the editors. And now they may or may not be paying their writers half as much per article, only $10 per article, but offering them alternate compensation based on per click, which, if you're lucky enough if you're enough of a suck up to get on the editor's good sides and write all the articles that'll get the most clicks, maybe you'll make more than $20 an hour for your articles. Or maybe you're just a piece of trash freelancer who they wipe their ass with at that company, and you'll be getting $10 an article, plus a few cents here and there. Yeah, I definitely like where I'm at now. It's just... Actually, I just got a raise. I'm getting paid $22 an hour now. And it is strictly hourly. It's not per assignment. And, I just got a raise because I agree to work weekends. If you work at least 8 hours a week, or 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday combined, you get... Because they gave all the writers a raise to $21 an hour recently, and the weekend writers get $22 an hour. And that's no matter what day of the work. As long as I work for at least 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday, every other hour of work I produce throughout the week gets an extra $2 raise. Yeah, so think twice next time you click on anything affiliated with Collider, because fuck Collider. Train to Busan, that's the one I was thinking of. In Seoul Station? I wonder if that's as good. And I am kind of excited that All of Us Are Dead is getting a second season, because not only did I enjoy watching it, but I started watching it because I was assigned some articles to write about it, which got me curious. And, malfunctioning Sibian? Oh, the fuck Collider. Yeah, it's great, and also the editorial team at Looper, where I'm at right now, they are so supportive and so helpful, and it's one of those working environments where it's actually there are no stupid questions. Like, you can go to an editor and ask the stupidest, most brain-dead fucking question which has ever spontaneously spewed from your brain. And they will treat you with dignity and respect and help you through whatever it is you're struggling with regard to like work and assignments and stuff. It's really great. And weirdly, I know Collider is more popular with people, but I think numbers-wise, Looper does better with clicks and traffic. And I'm not sure how that works, but I'll let the people who have a stake in making it work decide how that works. What made you scared, Maris? What were you thinking about writing for them? Because if you let me hook you up, I get a bonus program if you stay on board. Yeah, Korean zombies are popping off though. So. Yep. No, but I'm curious about the scared Lipa Faithy stuff. What's happening there? Although Looper it's one of those sites that makes it very, very easy to go down a rabbit hole. They've got that going for them, which is nice. Happiness? I have never heard of that. Let's check out Hype Bay.
어제 괜찮았다고 오늘도 괜찮을 거란 보장은 없죠.
걱정하면 뭐가 달라집니까?
Well, no, I don't understand
이번 일도
Korean, so.
결국에는 무사히 지나가게 될 거야.
나도 학창 같이 버텨내는 겁니다. 내 가족 지키기 위해서.
뭐 하는 짓이야 당신?
행복해지는 게 어려워.
It's not your typical zombie show. The series takes place in the near future where next, a failed cure for COVID-19 sparks a new contagious virus called the Rita. The disease causes people to experience extreme rage and bloodlust, leading into a zombie-like state for a certain amount of time. A reflection of today's real-life pandemic, residents of an apartment complex are required to follow quarantine measures to contain the outbreak. Wow. MST3K this shit? I mean, we could maybe arrange something like that over Discord. You know what, Maris? You could work just weekends if you wanted to, because they don't have huge quota requirements for the freelancers. All you really need to do is, I think they want 10 hours a week, but maybe you can negotiate that if all you want to do is weekends. And they only really require about, and this is just something an editor told me, and I'm not sure if I should be spilling the beans to this, but they only really require you to hit a minimum of 150 words per hour to justify paying you, basically. And I know this because one pay period I didn't hit that threshold, and one of the editors had to sit me down and give me a little talking to. So I've been keeping extra track of that. Oh, I probably shouldn't put this VOD on YouTube because of I can edit around it. Can turn it into a highlight instead. We all know Kingdom. But Maris, DM me on Discord. If you're like really interested, like there's a referral program. We're encouraged to refer writers and bring you into the fold. One of us. Uh-oh. Again, I can edit around it, turn it into a highlight. All that fun stuff. Okay, I have been live for a little over 3 hours. I feel like we've exhausted ourselves on the topic of conversation. Oh, you don't really do Discord? Okay. Another thing that might be good is you can whisper me your email on Twitch, and then we can like discuss the finer points over email if you're comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable, give me your email address. Obviously, I understand. You know, you're a female on the internet. Privacy is important, especially now. Especially now when the government is paying companies to get access to data on my fucking period. Or on when my fucking period is supposed to happen. Oh, okay, yeah, Oh, wait, sorry, I misread that. Carrier pigeon would be better. God, Twitch whispers are the worst. I have to follow you, actually. Hold on. Where's the browser window where I do that one? Okay, actually, can I just follow you straight from Twitch chat? I think I can. Nope. And... oh, no, I have to do an extra click. Okay. That's okay, I can do an extra click. Extra. Hello. You are now followed by me on Twitch. Well, I mean, the only reason I would be saying something like, maybe I shouldn't say this, but... oh, no. Nope. Is because, like, you know, it could be easy somebody to adjust their hours based on what they've actually written instead of the hours they actually work. So, and that brings up all sorts of ethical questions, and yeah, we don't need to get into that discussion, but yeah, I followed you on, because that's the way it works now, because since they got rid of friend lists on Twitch, basically if you want to communicate with someone via whispers who has their privacy settings turned up, they have to follow you, and I think you have to follow them back. Not sure exactly how. I know it involves clicking the following button, which I'm not sure if they made that compromise because they were getting rid of the friends list, or if they were cutting the fat by getting rid of the friends list, and then also, happy accident, everybody's followers numbers go up, so everybody's chance at like looking like a big shot and scoring a sponsorship from a company goes up, and that increases Twitch's revenue. Okay, if their whispers are open, you don't need to follow them? Because my whispers are not open. I'm not open for whispers. I'm a female moderator in a channel that attracts a vocal minority of women-hating edgelords. I cannot have my whispers on. I think maybe it was just, it took like coding and other server internet resources to maintain the friends list function, and that it wasn't getting enough use to justify the expense is what I would guess. Oh, if I whispered her. Okay, well, that's something we can figure out later. Right now, though, I do think it might be time to wrap it up, y'all. Let's switch to this one. It's like that didn't do much. That's why I'm giggling. Don't center me. Hey, Japeda. Oh, did you just get here, dude? Oh, man. Ugh, I've been live for over 3 hours, and you're just getting here? Wow. Wow. Well, hey, I will do this. Here, Japeda. There's a link to a slideshow which has everything all nice and neatly outlined. Oh, dude. And you can go and take a look at that. And then if anything written there intrigues you, you can go back through my 3-hour VOD that's going to be up as soon as I'm done streaming. And, you know, listen in. And if there are any finer points you just have to hash out with me, Discord. Either my public Discord, or, you know, I know you're cool people, so I'm not afraid of getting a DM from you. Wait, which emote is that? Silent Sentry? Yeah, no. Yeah, so. It's been a long and. Wait, what? Weird. Some noises are going off and I'm not sure where they're coming from, but. Anyway. Yes, you're cool. Dude, I tried to help you get a job at Looper. I wouldn't do that with just anybody. And that's kind of why me and Kathy don't really talk anymore. Because, like, he just gets in his own way so much that it gets. And then because he's always getting drunk and it makes him an unreliable employee, so he's constantly changing jobs and always bitching about how, you know, he's a privileged white male in a world that doesn't kiss ass on privileged white males that much anymore. Yeah. And then I tried to help him out by getting some extra work with people I know, and he whined about having to retool his resume and send them a copy of it. And it's like, you have to do that for every job you apply for. That's just how the system works. It sucks, but if you're not willing to do the bare fucking minimum, then they're not gonna want to give you the work or a job. And he kind of made me look bad in front of people who I have professional connections with. And yeah, I'm still a little salty about it. Still think it's kind of shitty that he did that. You know, if you don't want my help, just tell me no. I'm a big girl. I can take rejection. But don't get me invested in helping you and then not only not take the help, but make me look bad. That was Kathy, silly. I mean, I don't hate the guy. If you've ever seen Clerks, and you remember that scene with Dante talking about basically the shit or get off the pot scene, where he like pooped his pants as a little kid because he needed to use the bathroom, but the lid was closed and he didn't know what to do about it because he was a little kid. It's like, yeah, you're going through a hard time. The world is changing. There are gay people and women and black people and all sorts of people who don't look like you, who are getting civil rights that they never had before, and that's scaring you, and it's making you want to drink and hate life and have suicidal ideations but not actually do anything about it. And I'm not encouraging anyone to do anything about suicidal ideation, you know. Seat is down, game over. Yeah, I just hope he finds a way to make peace with the fact that the world is a different place And even though evil white men and women on the Supreme Court are trying to go backwards to a world that he was used to and he was comfortable in, the rest of us are going to fight like fucking hell to make sure that doesn't happen. And I hope he finds some peace. You know, because otherwise his life is just going to be shit until his body finally gives out on him. But speaking of fighting, since we're winding down, adapt or die. You know, either embrace change or shit's gonna suck for you. But okay. No, anyway, so let me send y'all off with my typical, and this is more important now than ever, no lite te bastardes comborendorum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. You grind them right the fuck back. Because I am more determined than ever to do exactly that in whatever capacity I can get away with that doesn't end me up in jail or dead. So, yeah. Should we find someone to raid, maybe? Let's see, who is on my Twitcheroos? Doop-a-doo. Click that, click that. Doo-beep-boop-boop-boop. Doo-beep-boop-boop-boop. Tilly's playing RimWorld. Do you guys want to go say hi? Give him hell. Hell yeah. We could go raid Tilly. I'm all for raiding Tilly. If you guys are into that. Let me go ahead and preemptively. I haven't seen a good RimWorld playthrough in a while. Could be fun. Alright, let's go. Let's do this. Okay. Raid. 10 days. Okay, I'll see y'all over there. Actually, hold on. Before we do that, raid message. Wait, is that? Hold on. Let me make sure I actually spell it right. Okay, yeah. Here's gonna be our raid message, guys. Copy that. Actually, Sitley, I like yours better now. Okay, I'm gonna copy Sitley's. Okay, go ahead and spam that when you get into Tilly's chat after the raid. And I'll see y'all there. Well, your joke was funny, so I'm stealing it. Deal with it. We're raiding. Get ready to spam. Okay, raid now.
All we gotta do is throw a tantrum. I'm punching shit. Hey, Thea! Welcome. Thank you for the raid. You get a rim job, and you get a rim job. Everybody gets the rim job.